video on lean and agile reporting. The basics of lean and agile reporting. We'll be covering some things that maybe you're familiar with, maybe you're not. Burn up, burn down, and velocity, throughput, all these kinds of things. So let's just jump right in. The Burndown chart is one of the most basic charts. Originally in the definitions of Scrum, wow, you can look at the dates on there, 2011. That's when I made this slide. Originally, when Scrum was defined, Burndown chart was one of the artifacts that was required to be a part of a Scrum context. So, if you were doing Scrum with the big quotes around it or whatever, official Scrum, you had to be displaying your Burndown chart. In the most recent iteration, at least the last iteration when this video was made, that I believe was in 2016, they updated that. Ken Schwaber and his cronies updated that to not have the Burndown chart be a required element, a required deliverable, but to have a working product increment be the deliverable, which you kind of slap yourself on the forehead and go, oh, duh, that should have been a working product increment should always have been a deliverable that was required in Scrum. But a little history there for you. So what the Burndown chart shows you is at the beginning of a sprint, in this case, it looks like it's a 2-week sprint from January 1st through January 14th. 7 days, 7-day weeks there times 2. You at the beginning of the sprint, you would see only this blue line, and it would show that this team had what looks like 255 points. I'm sorry, not story points, hours. The team would have estimated the hours on all of the work that they had, and in sprint planning, and then at the beginning of the sprint, they would have put the little dot up there that said, yep, this is how many hours we have remaining, right? So we have 255 work hours remaining for the work that we have pulled into this sprint. And then they would have drawn a manual, just a straight line from that 255 down to the end of the sprint where there are 0 points or 0 hours left. And that's the ideal line. If the world was perfect, it would all line up this way, which it never is perfect. We know that. But it gives you something to go off of. If you don't have a goal, then you'll never know when you're off. So this is this is Hawaii, right? If we're in LA over here, and this is when we would get to Hawaii, this is our track. Then the purple line is our plane that's flying towards Hawaii. It's always correcting and hopefully getting there on time, but we'll see. And so this next line, the purple line, is a daily update that would happen. And that daily update would show exactly how much time remaining we have estimated. So every day, before or during the daily stand-up, usually before, the people who are working on each card update the time remaining on that story, on that card. Okay. Every word I said in there is important. They update means they actually do it. Every day, it means every day. The hours remaining. Careful. They don't just subtract the hours worked from the original estimate. Every single day for cards that are in process, they update the hours remaining. That provides you an accurate estimation of the hours remaining in the sprint. You don't want to be tracking hours worked. That's reporting on a vanity metric. That doesn't actually give you any value. What you really want to know is, are we going to deliver the stuff that we said we would deliver in the sprint on time. That's the only thing that matters. If you can get that done with working 3 hours instead of working 30, fine. I don't care how many you worked. I care that the product is delivered on time, right? So do not just take, so say your story estimate was 20 hours. This story is going to take 20 hours of work. Ugh, that'd be too big. Let me try again. This story was going to take 8 hours of work, right? So that's probably 2 days worth of work. Nobody works an 8-hour day. You get up and you go pee and you talk to people and there's interruptions and nobody works 8 hours. So stop pretending. You look at it and you estimate, okay, this is an 8-hour story. At the end of the first day, you worked on it for 5 hours, right? You were coding away and pounding away. And at the end of that 5 hours, you went, oh, crap. This is more complicated than I thought. I probably still have 8 hours left on this, even though I worked on it hard all day. So you scratch out the existing 8 and you write a new 8 in, which is what I would do. You want to track that. You want to see that. If you're doing a physical card, you'd actually, line through the first 8, draw a new 8. That way you're actually saying, I worked on it, but I still have 8 hours left. Don't bother telling me that you worked on it for 5 hours. I trust that you're working hard. That's totally, I don't need to know that. It's totally fine. But update the hours remaining. So you work on it another day, and you worked on it for 5 hours that day, and you got to the end of it, and you realized, okay, I probably still have 4 hours left on this. Even though I worked on it for 5, the estimate was 8. 8 minus 5 should be 3, but I still have 4 hours. So you scratch out the 8, so now you have 2 scratched out 8s, and you write a 4 next to it. Is that a big deal? No, it's the truth. That's really what we want to know. We want empirical proof and evidence that what is accurate. We don't want you to give us what you think we want to hear, right? Let's hear the truth. What we want to hear is the truth. So next day you work on it for 4 hours and it's done. You move it out of that column and you're done, right? You move it to done and it's done. That's how Burndown works. If everybody is updating their hours remaining, then the Burndown chart will burn down appropriately, and you will be able to see it tracking, trending, and whether you're actually going to make it or not. So this chart is actually obviously on the last day of the sprint. So if it was on the 5th day of the sprint, it would be right about 5, right there. So you have this purple line up to this point. None of the rest of it would show. This whole part wouldn't show. You'd have the trend line, and you'd have this with this and down to here. Almost always, folks, this line either goes horizontal or goes up in the first day or 2. Just face it. Your estimates weren't accurate. There's almost always something new that's created or found or discovered in that early process, right? And so it almost always goes flat or up here. And then, what happens here? Well, people worked hard. Maybe they found an easier way to do something. Who knows? Here they're tracking perfectly. They're burning down just right. And then here it looks like on day 6, during day 6, something happened. They found some defect, or they found, we thought it was going to be easy to figure out this particular aspect, but it's actually more complicated than we thought. And so they upped their estimates. So they worked on a card. Say it was a card that had 7 hours. It was a 7-hour estimate card. And they worked on it for 4 hours. And they got to the end of that and went, wow, this is really complicated. It was a 7-hour card, but I think we probably still have 12 hours remaining on it. It's way more complicated than we thought. Even though we worked on it for 4 hours, I think there's 12 more hours to go. So it went up. You see? That's why the estimate went up there. All right, so then we burn down. So that's burn down charts. They help you see how you're trending on this current sprint. Burn up charts. Okay, burn up and burn down often get confused, but not for you, right? A burn up chart is exactly like a burn down chart in that you start off with the line starting at 0 and you draw a line reaching up to your total. So this is the total number of points in a product. You can do a burn up chart for a sprint, but usually it's done across multiple sprints. So this is the number of points in a product or a feature that's going to be released. So it looks like this feature has 27 points that its total includes 26 points. So at the beginning here in the first sprint, you have, well, this must be the first sprint. Here's the second sprint. So this first sprint, they delivered nothing. The second sprint, they delivered something. They delivered what, about 2 points worth, and then looks like they're up to 5. So they're trending towards they're going to make it. Uh-oh, something happened here. So you're able to watch as each sprint completes, you put in on this chart, you add up the number of points on the cards that were delivered, like fully functional, delivered, production ready. Burn up allows you to see how fast you're getting towards your completion. You can see here that they were off track. This is a cause for concern, right? They didn't deliver anything that sprint. The cumulative flow chart now gives you a lot more information than just a burnup chart. Burnup chart shows you stuff. It shows you what's been accepted, but it doesn't show you what happened. Why is this flat here? The cumulative flow chart helps you start to see, oh, there's some patterns that are happening. So here we see the work that is ready. This is the total number of points that the feature or product has in it. And at the beginning of the sprint, or at the beginning of the effort, all of those points are in ready. In the first sprint, they took on, looks like about 8 points worth of work, and they completed, see, this is the completed line, they completed 1 point worth, maybe 2, but none of it was accepted. So the work got through to done, but the product owner did not show up. They didn't have a chance. They, I don't know, maybe they were traveling, or they didn't agree that it was actually done, right? Didn't agree it was actually completed. So at that point, there was 0 points that were given to this team. Oh, so now you can start to see a little bit more of a story. So you see that they took on a whole bunch of points and they only delivered this much. In the next sprint, it looks like they got 1 point in there that got accepted, 1 or 2, right? What they actually had here, if you draw a straight line across, it looks like that one was accepted, but this one wasn't. So they finished the story and it wasn't accepted. So you can now tell the story of what's going on here. I find it really a powerful tool, because if you saw a burn up like this, these stories are accepted. What's the story in that? Ignore that gray line over there. I don't know what happened there. It's really hard to tell the story from just the burnup chart, but if you see this as the cumulative flow, it's pretty easy to see. Oh, they're not completing stories. They're just taking on more work, and so they're getting buried in task switching and context switching. Too much work they've just taken on too much work. They think probably that, well, we're supposed to take on new stories every sprint, and therefore we'll just take on more stories even though we're not completing them. They need to stop starting new things and start finishing what they got on their plate already. Again, what if this is the burn up you see? Well, the cumulative flow tells you a much better story of what's going on here. you can see that they actually finished some things and they were accepted. And then right here, they just kind of went flat. This is actually pretty accurate to a burnup or a cumulative flow chart that I received, that I was tracking on a project that I had, where the something broke here, and then they did a little bit more work. They got one more story delivered, and then right about here, the lead developer gave notice. So they were just emotionally shot, and there to the end of the sprint, they didn't get any new work done. It was an emotionally difficult time for the team. And so this tells you a different story. Another one here. What's going on? Oh, sorry. What's going on here? If this is what you see, it's hard to tell what's really happening. But if this is your cumulative flow, the team seems to be delivering pretty darn well. They're not taking on too much work. It seems that they're actually finishing work that they've got on, but that product owner doesn't seem to be actually accepting the work. So maybe that product owner isn't available all the time, or they're only so they're only showing up once every couple sprints, right? Or they're accepting things only. I don't know what their problem is, but this is a chart that would have me say, I need to go talk to that product owner and go, okay, what's happening? How can we get you more engaged with the team so that this accepted work is flowing more smoothly? Because nobody wants this herky-jerky kind of motion, because when the team is finishing all this here, they've got a large gap of things that are completed but not accepted. And that causes stress because they're not sure whether it's actually going to meet their product owner's acceptance, right? Did we build what you wanted? Not sure. So that's a danger there. So that's it, working with cumulative flow and burn down and burn up charts. Those are the basic charts. In the next video, we'll talk about velocity and how to calculate it.